We are live in Washington, D.C., in Adams Morgan, making our way down and thinking about crossing now as we can. Looks like I can make it. Just. I won't be coffee and bake shop. I've been over at Tiny Vinyl just back behind me. See the moon and gibbous phase. And waning, waxing gibbous, I would think. And we're going to hit the bridges. No, maybe we'll go down Columbia. Head back home. It depends. I think the bridges would be more scenic, but at the same time, I'm not sure I want to walk that far. I guess I do. I guess I don't. I guess I do. I don't know. We could turn on Belmont. It's called Belmont. I think so. Oops. Counting down. Coming by the now closed Starbucks, you can see that impacts on the economy are happening and choices are being made. Starbucks closing down this particular venue, which I guess wasn't as profitable as they needed to stay open. This is one thing. An independent may open there yet. That would be good. Stimulate the local economy. Liquor stores don't have much problem, though. It appears I've very rarely seen one of those close. Lots of them open. Andrea Bocelli being advertised there. It's going to be at Capital One Arena on Sunday, December 14th. Scan that for tickets. There we go. Notice my video is very choppy at the moment. So we have turned on Biltmore. It was some fancy sounding road. Biltmore. Let's see an apartment building there. Smaller buildings and condos. Onward. I don't have a lot else to say about the passing show, except that it is who, what, when, and where in Washington, D.C. There's some random video shot for no particular purpose in mind, aside from making primary documentation for historians of the future. Stacks of books in the window there. That always appeals to me. Books. A large skeleton in the yard over here. Multiple apartments within that building, I expect. Haddington next door. It's a little courtyard of row houses. Make good use of the real estate in the area. Packing a lot of residences into a small space. What I enjoy about that is that it reminds me that there are so many people involved in so many different endeavors, living packed in together so closely. And I never seem to notice. I live in a bunker within a building, has multiple units, many of the residents I don't know at all. Nor do I go out of my way to know them. Not unfriendly, I just don't go out of my way to get to know my neighbors. Maybe we ought to do more of that as we can get to know those who've come on to the passing show. Tell us where you are, what lights you up inside. What lights me up inside is being alive, the passing show ongoing, and We're at that season where we remind ourselves of the imminence of death, how it gets us all in the end. But we can celebrate being alive, laugh in the face of it. Over there, they've got a little inflatable ghost carrying another ghost, a little guitar. Is what it is. And a couple of my neighbors here talking under a street lamp, illuminated fall leaves on the trees to fall later. Many have fallen already.
Thanks for reducing your 70,000, but 70,000 too long. And like, are you seen too?
Hello.
70,000, right? Like, but yeah, anyway. And so I'm like, you're nickeling the funny.
Yeah. Nickel and diming this task. It's a fact. That is the way of the world. Now I've gotten myself to the bottom of, I think, 20th Street, maybe, intersection with Belmont. Yeah, there's it. 19th Street and Belmont. 20th is probably right down there. I've got a couple of choices I could do. I don't know. We'll see. It's a glorious lampshade on that one. I don't know if y'all can see as well. Yeah, I guess you can see well enough. Some of the things I'm picking up. Lampshade, yeah, maybe a little bit. Other folks walking. Coming around here, we'll be coming up to the bridge, the end of the Duke Ellington Bridge, and we'll walk across that. We'll have the big porch on this house. 3 stories. 4 if you count the ground, English basement level. I watched some football. Didn't notice who was playing. I still didn't get it. Chrysanthemums. Sounds like someone behind me. Folks have some pumpkins up. Porch Fest. Adams Morgan, when was that? It doesn't tell me. Oh, well. So it goes. All right, lovely pieces of architecture. It's funny how little stories emerge. Bits and pieces. DC. And how we come up on the view of the setting sun, a little bit of last light. Mm. Had a few too many potato chips for a snack this afternoon. It is the season of seasoned chips, though, so you can't want to pass those up at Trader Joe's if you can avoid it. $2.99 a bag, something like that. All the flavors of the season wrapped up in a potato chip. I'm passing jets. Not going to bother looking at what theirs are. Needs to get pushed out as YouTube shorts in addition to being clips on Substack. I just tend to get some pretty nasty comments, actually, because there is no real production value going on here. It's just me narrating the passing show as it goes by my lens. But with that reflection, meditation, on how we're all in this together and we're all weaving the future by our individual actions, our choices, how we make. My choices in eating potato chips, for instance, makes an impact. Ripple effects that take off. The choice to fly in that airplane to wherever those folks are going is making an impact. All these folks who decided to get behind the wheel of their cars and stack up along the Rock Creek Parkway down below me have made an impact, as have the people who got in their cars decided to drive across the Duke Ellington Bridge this evening. Sure, a lot of them have good cause to be where they are in time and space. Choices we made, decisions, conscious and unconscious. And how many of them are unconscious? And that's really the thing, right? The unconscious decisions we make, the push and shove of every little influence might come along the way. Let's take a look down here. The passing show. So Alexi's headsets here, Sandra Sent, Starflower, Captain Lippy, and Love BK have all joined. That's a total of 4. And it looks like there were 6. So there's a invisible person and me. I don't know why somebody would be invisible on the passing show, but it's possible. Welcome anyway. Hero Wings is all about turning up the surface, seeing what might take root, what might sprout. Just because you've churned up the surface doesn't mean anything is likely to happen necessarily. Something will, but it could just be more weeds. And here, get another look at that traffic along Rock Creek Parkway. It's kind of staccato from my starting flow now. And hi, Alexi, where are you? Yeah. Just to let us know where you're at globally. Can be vague, like what country, what city, what state, what. And, what lights you up inside? What's making your day go by better, or what is motivating you to stay in the game? I like to talk about those things because we are all in a game of Beat the Reaper. And at the end, the Reaper always wins. And we can't be too careful, There, we got cars going down through the trees. And Moscow. Well, welcome from Moscow. I think having conversations, one side of the world to the other, Washington, D.C. to Moscow, is so needed in our time. I don't know what you do for a living. I have been, in the past, a contractor for various federal government agencies, Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, Agriculture, Human, was it, what's it called? HUD, Housing and Urban Development, as well as Education and Labor, and probably others. Let's stop and think about it. State. I did a little work for the Department of State in the past. Their consular affairs support system. And so banned from someone like you on Substack, from someone like me? Got banned from somebody like me on Substack? That's terrible. Why? Because you're Russian? I like Russians. I had a lot of friends who were Russian. I was in the University of Pittsburgh and the German department, and with one of my friends in the Russian department, who happened to be American like me, we hosted a Russian Slav happy hour just for the sheer joy of getting Russians and Germans together. German Slav happy hour, I think we called it, because it was all kinds of Slavic nations involved, not just Russia. And, we just wanted to get us together and have a good time and learn from each other, because we're all human. We're all human beings. There are not any us and them out there. We are all us. That's my mantra. Every cent we spend or every ruble is a vote for the kind of world we are co-creating. And were it possible, I'm sure that most people in Russia would prefer not to have their fellow Russians going out and getting killed in the Ukraine or other wars. Same with us. We managed to withdraw most of our forces from harm's way, although we have bases everywhere. And, we demonize the Russians in order to keep our military hopping and flush with cash so that the wheels of the economy continue to turn, because that's how we're built anymore. But we must boldly go into the future to the undiscovered country in which we beat our swords into plowshares. I'm going a pretty regular route, yes. I'm going across the Duke Ellington Bridge and back across the Taft Bridge. I'm not going to do anything fancy today. You wrote friendly stuff. You work in computers. In Cold War, half of world knew Russian language. Yeah, and it should be more. When I was in graduate school, it was the 90s. I actually went over to Germany in 94 after the fall of the wall and met many from Croatia, Macedonia, the list goes on, of folks who were studying to become diplomats for their various countries. Many of them very new countries like Croatia, like Macedonia, North Macedonia, I think they call it now, to keep the Greeks happy. And what I've noticed when I was in the Goethe Institute on Prinam Kimse with these people is we're all so much the same. I went up to Berlin to visit them in their school on the eastern side and saw the effects of the war when the Russians came into Berlin and did what they had to do to end Hitler's power. And of course, we know about Stalin. And then we know about, how things are going now. And we could cooperate better. I think there's a better chance for peace under Trump and Putin working together than otherwise would be the case. Seems like we have a ceasefire in Gaza now. Seems like maybe we can get to peace in Ukraine. But I know that we goaded Russia into that in no uncertain terms. It's very obvious if anybody studies the facts of the matter. Thing is, most of us are pretty well brainwashed to think only in terms of Russian aggression. Self-defense is probably more like it from their perspective. And one thing's for sure, we could use with less bloodshed. In general, I'm a big advocate for disarmament, have been forever. I remember 1983 very vividly. And you're obsessed. The Stasi-like government had info on every citizen, communist Berlin. Yes, interesting film called, in English, The Lives of Others. Worth seeing, about the Stasi and about how East Germans were surveilled to the nth degree. And now we're being surveilled. I'm sure my conversation is being picked up by various entities living in Washington, D.C., as I do. And I'm not afraid to exercise my free speech. I don't think I'm going to be picked up for it, but I'm going to continue to express myself on these lines because I think it's so important that we wake up. We smell the coffee. We realize we are one species and our global boundaries are dissolving, have been dissolving, and they've been solidifying in some cases. They've been reconfiguring. I mean, look at the Yugoslavia situation in the 90s in particular. My friend Derzislav lost his brother in the war for independence in Croatia from Serbia. So he has some strong feelings about it and wanted peace. I think we all want peace. But restitution is also something people want for harms done. Eventually, we have to have a Jubilee year where we forgive everybody their debts and start from scratch. I think it's possible. I've been noticing that, the fintech is out there controlling stuff could very easily be used to redistribute wealth more evenly between the haves and the have-nots. In my neighborhood, for instance, I'll be passing by the home of Jeff Bezos. If I wanted to walk right over there on the other side of the bridge across the way, I'd be able to walk by Mark Zuckerberg's new digs, although I expect he's probably going to be taking up residence on his yacht that just refueled at Gibraltar after about, I think, 3 months or so, 90 days, something like that, in a French dry dock where it was being refurbished after its first year shakedown cruise. It's called Launchpad. Horrific, obscene wealth demonstration, my view. And so it goes. Not much we can do about it just yet, it feels like. Although, I think we can. I think we need to have the will to do it. We need to be willing to inconvenience ourselves, rise up, much as a lot of folks did in the 19 teens. Many people don't remember the 19 teens because it's been well over 100 years ago. You could also look back to 1848 or 1968. There have been many attempts at revolution, but there have been faints at change. Anybody else want to talk about it? Or are you 60? I'm 62, actually. 62. I was born in 63 when Kennedy was president and was a wee tyke, probably about 8 months old when he was shot in Dallas. And that changed everything. Things continue to evolve. What else do I want to talk about along these lines? Well, every since spent is a vote. Every time we spend anything, we make commitments that cause little wheels to turn and to shape the world we live in. Conversations, though, that we have one on one, as we're doing now for your texts and my speaking, can lead to better understanding between peoples. I think we need more of that. There was a time under Andropov when we were on the cusp of nuclear war, when a young girl from the United States wrote to Yuri Andropov and got an invitation to come to Russia and see for herself. And saw for herself that the Russian people weren't that different from the American people. In fact, our histories are very similar. Their expansion from Moscow out, our expansion from the East Coast over, our desire to control our borders, to keep ourselves safe from invasion, which we are relatively geographically. But we don't really pay enough attention, and it's very easy to get people to believe all kinds of things. Going through a lot of that right now with folks believing in the moon landings never happened, believing that evidence has suddenly come up from telomeres in the second chromosome of the human being that shows fusion. So we have 46 chromosomes and our great ape cousins have 48. And these, they're saying, is evidence of engineering, intelligent design, that we were created by intervention, unnatural intervention. I don't buy it. And neither does real science, but it's easy to get people to believe all kinds of shit. We are so ignorant for the most part, not very far removed from our cousins, the apes. I come up along the Wyoming condo building where Christopher Hitchens once had one of his homes, or his main home, I believe. He called D.C. New York's nicest suburb. Just across the street, it's home of the Chinese embassy staff, recently redone for their use. And so it goes. Keep on moving. Also, we said, okay, here, Mark Maron interviewed Barack Obama. It wasn't Frost versus Nixon. Geneva Convention, non-friendly. It's like Sartre visiting gulags. Sartre. Yeah, I think you mean Sartre. Lived next to Chinese embassy in Moscow. Okay. Good for you. So we have very similar vantage points of our various countries and what's going on. You can see this vehicles around me moving. If you see me get stuffed into one of them, you'll know that I talk too much. That's for Mark Maron interviewing Barack Obama. Yeah, man, that was not good with Barack Obama. It was just a shill. I'm not sure exactly why they put him in power in place of Hillary, why they allowed that to happen. You would have thought he would have been knocked off, but I guess they thought that was a good idea. Not sure if they didn't do it to try to drive some sort of machination, because he sure didn't turn out to be anything but Bush light. And not even that. If anything, he was kind of like stronger than Bush on drone striking people and carrying out all kinds of activities that are highly questionable. I recommend everybody watch Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 11/9, which explains a great deal of what happened up until 2016, including Barack Obama and how he handled the Flint, Michigan water crisis. Horrific, horrific stuff. And I think a good part of the population of the African American community has seen him for what he is and was, horrific as it is. What else do I want to say about that? Well, Mark Maron, I'm down with. He's a comic. I like how he spins. And I hope his interview was good. I don't know. When was it done? How recently? I don't see anything coming forward about that. Man, I've watched Mark Maron a couple times, most recently at the Warner Theater. My dear wife. That was a great show. I'm trying actually to sort of do something like what Mark Maron does, but from my own authentic voice, not aping him in any way. I sort of talking up how we brought our own bags, but it wasn't enough, to save the environment. But what we have now available to us are technologies that, if we're properly integrated, if there was a will among the people to do so, could actually steward us as a species along with all the other species in the most effective and efficient manner and clean up the environment in ways that would maximize not only our happiness, but the happiness of everybody else. It would free us up for creative work, to get off the money economy, maybe realize the Star Trek vision where everyone had the opportunity to realize themselves in whatever wise they wished. and that people have been motivated by the highest of our principles that carry us forward. That would be ethical. And then our AI overlords, is how it's called them, would be also bound by immutable ethical laws that would keep them working together and not against each other, but making sure they are ensuring a healthy planet for all life, where everything had the opportunity to live out its natural span and be in balance, because we're getting out of balance. Now, there are those who say that 8 billion people running around this globe is not too many. Okay, but when does it become too many? And also, if birth rates do fall, what does that mean? Analysis has to be done. Predictive analysis has to be carried out. That then we can prepare and act ahead of time to stave off dangerous situations. There a part of Consciousness podcast on Twitter that I interviewed Anthony Peake. Oh, I've heard of him. The one who wrote Philip K. Dick biography. Right. And Philip K. Dick, great visionary. He showed us how it could all go wrong. And as a result, here we are talking to one another. I'll walk down the middle here between these pylons, I think. Got traffic turning into me. So I can get across now. Just hustle it up. Yep. I made it. We're by the Churchill Hotel. Named, no doubt, for Churchill. Chartwell Grill. There, I tried to eat there once. Did not go well. I didn't end up eating there. Across the way, the Hepburn. That's the Hinckley Hilton where Reagan was shot in 1981. When I was a senior in high school, Hinckley shot him. Hinckley came to live in the neighborhood I was living in back then. I don't know if he still lives there or not. His parents, I think, have both passed away now. But man, well, they will have their lives wrecked by their son's insanity. So it goes. Yeah, no, Mark Marion talked about precognition. Philip K. Dick wrote that Minority Report. Yeah. Yeah, he also wrote Dallas, many other things. And Exegesis, his posthumous writings about 2374, February, March of 74, and the events that happened to him in that time period, had some interesting insights. Very alien living information system. I forget what BALLAS stands for, something like that. Infinite intelligence. Napoleon Hill talked about that as well. Take on the supernatural. I'm a skeptic, but I love investigating. And when it comes down to it, I'm not even sure of the natural, much less the supernatural. It's my opinion that all of this could be mere illusion, projection of my consciousness. Maybe I died myriad times, and this is just the afterlife spilling out in the last nanosecond of consciousness. I noticed time dilation when I was oxygen deprived by pneumonia in 1996. I would go to sleep and dream a month's worth of life and then wake up to find 15 minutes had passed. Yeah, Magic Mountain talks about that, Thomas Mann's novel, about how the oxygen deprivation can affect how one perceives and our perceptions are really all we have. My communications are not the message intended, they are the message perceived. I talk about that in the essay on the art and science of conversation, which I think is actually pretty good. I should probably republish that. It's one of the great things about Substack. It's a great publishing platform for both those videos, for all kinds of, ongoing documentation of the passing show, primary documentation, potentially for historians in the future, if historians are even needed, because we may be at the end of history. We don't know. Seems like it'd be an awful shame to just vaporize all of this, though. And that's the way it felt in 1983, by the way. To me, I was 20 years old. I was pretty well convinced that it wouldn't be long before we were all vaporized in a flash of light. And I was down at the biggest concentration of military power in the world, Norfolk, Hampton, Newport News, Williamsburg, Yorktown, the peninsula between New York and James, the Hampton Roads confluence there, right where Norfolk Naval Base is, Oceana Air Station, not far away, Virginia Beach. And, we were definitely targeted. There was a nuclear power station just across the river, and we knew we were in danger from our own technology. In the 80s, we began to be aware of global warming and the effects of the fossil fuel consumption. I was just watching a documentary on this the other night, the White House effect, it was called. Anyway, we're going to wrap up the passing show here. We're just about home outside of McClellan's retreat. McClellan was a general in the Civil War who didn't really get a lot done. So Lincoln had him replaced by Grant eventually for fighting the Army of Northern Virginia and fighting them basically to a draw. The Romanians of D.C. have given us this little free library. Really grateful to them. And what else do I want to tell you about? Well, I think that's about enough. MK Ultra was interesting. Perpendicular time also K-Ditch. Yeah. And we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We know how things seem to us. We could be wrong. One thing for sure, we need to have better relations between peoples on this globe if we want to have the greatest happiness of the greatest number. I'm all about utilitarianism on steroids, and I believe we can achieve it by integrating our technologies efficiently and effectively. It's what I've been on about now for a long time, studying as an enterprise architect, practicing in the federal government. And I haven't been doing that now for about a year and a half, a little over. Need to figure out what's next. So that's why I'm doing the AI conferences and certifications to sort of make things better. It's a flashing light on that building across the street. Periodic. There it is again. I don't know what it's coming from. But I'll tell you this. That building could be yours for the right price. Over 16,000 square feet of Georgian Revival Manor. One time it belonged to Meriwether Post, and she gave it to the Boy Scouts, America. And I don't know who owns it now, but they're trying to sell it. Oh, I got. Thanks for joining us. And MK Ultra, super scary. I do a lot with the memory hole. TMH, it's called on Substack. Read it. Great stuff. Out here. Thanks for joining me. It's been great having a conversation, Alexi.